everyone, it's Sandra, and today as my camera person I have Landon. So thank you, Landon, for helping me out. We are in our temporary location still with the worms. This is Cinderella. Now, I had said last time that I was preparing Cinderella for a harvest. It's been 15 days, so I'm just going to take a look-see and just see whether my conclusion is still correct, that, you know, these dry bits aside on the top, that I am going to be pulling out some of this material from Cinderella. I don't want to disturb the feeding zone, which is over here, because any worms that are in there, oh, and where's Prince Charming? Oh, there he is. Any worms that are under the feeding zone, I want to keep them there, because I want to pull out this mostly finished material from this end. So let me just get my tub to pull this material out, and I'll be right back. So I'm using my green scoop. It's got very dull edges, so I'm fairly confident that any worms that come in contact with that edge are not harmed. If I get into compressed casting, I have a fork here to loosen them up. These are springtails that we're seeing in here. I also see worms, including these little tiny baby worms that are in here. So I know that this vermicompost is going to contain not only bits of wood, but are going to contain worms. But that's okay, because I'm just putting them into a styrofoam tote to rest while I replenish this bedding. You know, obviously anything big that I see, I can just pull out and toss over, including a worm, can pull out and toss over into the end. But, you know, I'm not going to take up your time with all this today. I'm just going to empty this, and then I'm going to bring you back and show you how I reset the bin after I've taken out this vermicompost that's now going to age for a couple of months. This whole harvest took me 4 minutes. The green scoop does a great job, probably holding as much as 3 or 4 handfuls at a time. You'll note I have to stop to loosen up the compressed vermicompost and then scoop some more. Although I'm going to rest this material for up to 2 months, it really depends on whether we're living here or in our new house by then. But even if I put this material to work right away in my garden, I would not be worried. Having vermicompost that has chunkier bits left in it is a good thing. It introduces both long and slow material into your garden, lots of hidey holes for the worms and other critters, and does a great job at moisture retention. I used to sift my vermicompost to get really fine castings when I wanted to do seed starting, because if you're planting tiny seeds and you've got chunkier bits, you can see how that could drown a seed in too much depth. Now I simply wait a bit longer so that my seed starting castings have been rested the longest, because this is so microbial active. Even though I hope there won't be a lot of worms left in here for the 2-month period, the material itself will continue to break down any chunky bits that are left over. All right, so this is what we pulled out. You'll see there are still lots of Cinderella's worms in here. You know, probably several hundred for sure, maybe even more. And I will bait these out or otherwise trap them out, pull them out over the next little while and put them back to work in Cinderella. But the rest of them will remain in here and go to work finishing up this vermicompost. You'll see there's lots of still needle fragments in here, and probably lots of carbon fragments, probably no food stuffs left over from the last feeding, but as we know, carbon is food. Let me take you back to Cinderella now and show you what I'm going to do. Just as a curiosity, this lobster claw is from 2 years ago. I don't think we've had lobster in 2 years. So see, the very tip of lobster is still breaking down. Anyway, lots of cocoons in here for Cinderella to mature. So that was a fast harvest. to just get the bulk out of Cinderella so I can replenish her bedding and put those worms back to work. Okay, now let's go back to the bin. All right, let's take a look at that old feeding zone where I presume there's still a lot of Cinderella's worms. It's been 15 days, but like I said, she's in cooler temperatures, so food isn't going to go quite as quickly. There are worms on this lid, but I think they'll be fine while I just do this. Now, I took out probably 65-70% of the bin. You probably saw me struggling with the compression down the bottom, which is why this bin had to be harvested. So now I'm going to spread out the old feeding zone and just take a look at, we'll get an assessment. Is all the food gone? How many worms are left? I'm going to spread this material over the entire bottom of the bin and just take a look. Now this is the old feeding zone where Prince Charming was. I'm still seeing a few of those asparagus stems. There's the bell pepper stalk. You see the little baby worm right there in the end of the pepper. They've cleaned off all those seeds. I'm not seeing any sprouts that I thought I might see some pepper sprouts. But look at that. In these cooler temperatures, we still have asparagus stems hanging out after 15 days. Not a problem. See, I need to get this compression out of here though, because I am going to replenish with new carbon now. She looks like she's cleaned up the carbon. My video from last time, I made her clean up her old carbon and it looks like she's done it. But the asparagus stems were a little bit too fibery. And look at that fiber. Lots of worms in it, but they haven't finished it. So I'm just going to get these compressed castings out of these corners. The fork is a worm-friendly tool. Should not harm the worms. And there you go. So this is very moist, very compressed. And I'm going to spread this out once I put some new carbon in it. And so because this is moist, probably more moist than it needs to be, I'm going to pull all the material to one side as best I can. And then put some dry-ish carbon in this end, and then pull that material over and do the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give her some bamboo leaves, which my sister and I cleaned out the bamboo. Now these leaves are very old. They've been sitting down the bottom of our clump of bamboo for years, probably decades. So I think they will be, even though they're dry, I think they will be in a state of being composted down. So I'm quite excited to see how quickly those bamboo leaves will disappear. And just to give it a little bit of a boost, I'm going to give it a handful of, again, our semi-processed leaf mold. Now this stuff is definitely on its way into being composted. Now that is dry, but remember, I'm going to be adding this mixture from the top. I'm just going to pull it over like this. So all that moisture from those compressed castings is going to, moisture goes down, of course. So the moisture is going to sink down to that drier leaves on the bottom, that drier carbon, and the worms will have no problem at all getting into that dry carbon once the moisture has regulated in the bin. So I keep banging this because there is haircuts and all sorts of things to gum up the fork. All right, so in this end, I'm going to put some of the lovely leaf mold again, a handful of that. There we go. Little bit of the bamboo. There we go. And then I'm going to give Cinderella's worms a nice feeding. This has got lots of eggshell powder in it. There's some onion peel, some carrot leaves, some carrot peels, and some tea leaves in here. This food has been sitting out for a few days, so it's lovely and microbial rich. And then I'll just top that up with a little bit more of my semi-processed leaf mold, and then just pull over the rest of this material. So this bin has just gone through a harvest. It is not as shallow as perhaps it could be after a harvest, but you know, that new carbon will compress down quickly. I'll just poke in that asparagus stem and this avocado pit. So I have no doubt this will go quickly once the carbon will go quickly once the worms get into it, because both of those sources of carbon were well inoculated. All right, that is Cinderella's feeding.
Where's Prince Charming?
Oh, where's Prince Charming? Yes, Landon. Where is Prince Charming? I think I put him over here. Did I? We've lost Prince Charming.
I think he's in the bin.
I didn't take Prince Charming out of the bin?
I don't think so.
Oh dear. Is this it? No.
That's him right against the end there, isn't it?
There?
Left. Oh, farther right. Right against the wall.
There?
No, towards the middle. Straight ahead from your hand. Isn't that it? No.
No, we've lost. The popsicle stick will have to be a stand-in for Prince Charming. Oh my gosh. Sorry, Prince Charming. That's the second time I've forgotten about you and buried you. Oh dear. All right, and then we've got some leaves that were on top of the bin here. So that's typical Cinderella fashion. She never gets a normal feeding. But anyway, nice harvest for Cinderella today. And we'll just top it up with this brown paper, and we'll check in and see how much that bedding compresses at our next feeding. All right, everyone. Bye for now.